Hello everyone, and I hope you are doing well. In the previous video of our listening practice, we covered the sections 1 and 2 of a listening sample on the website IELTS Buddy. So now here we are going to continue on to parts 3 and 4 from the same website IELTS Buddy, and we're going to analyze what the academic sections of the listening part actually include. So we noticed in the previous video that there are different things that are important when actually listening. There are some parts that you may miss, you may not hear them correctly, there may be a word that you do not understand. The best thing was to actually skip that part. Just let it go. Do not think about it again, because when it goes, it goes. It does not they don't play it for you again. So if you keep thinking about it, you will miss the rest of the conversation. As I said before, every word that you don't understand or every sentence will be, I don't know, about 10 seconds maybe, but the whole listening would be about 10 minutes. So you will be sacrificing 10 minutes for only a 1 minute sentence, or maybe less than that. So this way you miss more questions, more answers, and then you will score less. And we also noted that by listening to the files after you have completed the test, you can learn a lot of useful phrases and expressions. Now, we are going to continue with that and see what the second section, actually the academic parts, include. The general ideas, the general conversation and the general lecture on the sections 1 and 2, they were relatively easy. The lecture was slightly more difficult, but now let's see how the academic one works out. Here we have again a conversation on part 3, media studies course. Let's actually go ahead. I'm looking for some advice about a master's degree in media studies. Am I at the right place? To look for advice actually is a good collocation that you can use in your speaking or your writing. The collocations actually work this way. You know the meaning when you see them, see the words, when you see the collocations, you know what they mean. But when you use them, it actually shows that you know how to use the language. It improves your score by a lot. So we can see that from the first sentence that the topic of this conversation is an academic one. Advice about doing a master's degree. So this is what the difference is. In the first conversation, it was about booking a hotel room actually. Yes, my name's Mark. I'm head of the media studies course. Nice to meet you. And you are. We are expecting to hear the name of the person speaking actually. The head of media studies course. The head is the person in charge and not actually the head. I'm Louise. Nice to meet you too. So how can I help you? Well, I've seen the prospectus for the course, but I'm still a bit confused. That's again good. Prospectus, a new word. Confused means perplexed. And I have seen it shows that the action of the verb actually occurred in the past, and the time is not clear. That's the difference between present perfect and simple past. For more information about the different tenses and grammatical structures, you can visit my other course, Advanced English Grammar. What's your situation at the moment? Are you working? What's your situation at the moment? What are you doing as we speak? Are you working? Yes, I've been working as a journalist for a local newspaper for the last 3 months. I have been working. This is present perfect continuous here. it shows that the action started at a specific time in the past, actually kept going up to now, and it may continue in the future, to the future. Prior to that, I had 2 jobs in the media, at a small local radio station for about 2 years and at a TV station for about 4 years. So here are the details, where the detail actually lies. There might be questions here. As you can see, this part has been underlined. Prior to that, it means before actually starting to work as a journalist. Prior to that. So I worked in media for about 6 years in total. In total. It means as a whole. Okay, well, that's useful if you want to do the course. What is your motivation to do further study? What is your motivation? Motivation, it actually means what is motivating you? Why, in fact, are you studying? Are you actually looking to further your study? I enjoy my job a lot at the moment, but I feel the opportunities for promotion are quite limited. Opportunities for promotion, that's very important. That's an important part, actually. You can use these collocations later. In your speaking, definitely, that's going to be useful. It's not that I think a master's will help with this, though. It's not that I think, actually, not that I think. When someone says not that I think something, the rest of the sentence, it means they're going to clear a misunderstanding. I'll probably leave my job, maybe to go into TV or something, but basically, I think wherever I end up going in the future, employers prefer to see someone with postgraduate qualifications these days. So this is an important actually subject here. Most of the students who think furthering their studies, I mean, this can be regarded as a good piece of idea for your speaking, because in the speaking section, most of the times we have the question, do you work or are you a student? And people who choose the second option, actually being the student, they may be asked questions like this: what is your motivation? This is a common question. So here is a good example of how you can answer. See, as you can see on the screen, the answer is very well developed, very well structured. It is not that difficult, but it is very smooth, very native-like, and that's what a kind of answer. That's what an answer for the speaking actually should be. I think wherever I end up going in the future, employers prefer rest of the sentence. And are you intending to study full-time? To study full-time, we have part-time students and full-time students. You could do certain modules. Well, I'd really like to keep working as I need an income. What are the options for me if I want to work whilst studying? What are the options whilst studying? That's a good, useful word. As here means because I need an income. You could do certain modules over a number of years you like. It's up to you how many you do. Basically, you get credits for the ones you complete. You get credits. You don't say scores. You don't say I don't know, points. Points could work, but credits is the usual word that you go with. People usually do the masters in anything from 18 months up until 4 years. It depends on your time. That's the preposition for depend, very important. Many people say depend of or depend in. That's how we use the word depend on something or someone. If you wanted a fixed schedule, that's a useful word. Actually, a collocation: fixed schedule or a flexible one. An attendance and did it part-time, then that would be a total of 3 years. A total of 3 years. You can see how the word total is being used. So what is the admission criteria to join the course? Admission criteria. It means the actually how and on what basis the students are going to be admitted. And whatever about the verb admit. Admit is actually has two meanings. The first one is accept. The second one is actually university's admission. But admit is actually a little bit different from accept. When you say accept, it means that maybe it's a neutral word. But when you say admit, accept is something neutral. But when you say admit means that the person who is accepting the idea is not actually very well proud of it. For example, you admit that you made a mistake. Well, there are a few things that are useful but not essential. Useful but not essential. Essential, it means that it's something useful and necessary. But there are some requirements. Usually to join a master's, people must have a bachelor's degree, but we are prepared to overlook this if someone has enough work experience. To overlook means to look at something and not take it seriously or not deem it important. But you must have one or the other. It's useful if you have research experience, as you have to complete a thesis, but we can train you on this if not. You must have one or the other. Must and have to and should, they have some differences. There's a word must. Must means there is a force, there's an obligation, but it's it's not a law. It's not something that you'll be punished for. It's an internal force that runs the person, and when you say have to, it's like the law. And should is just a suggestion. For example, when you're sick, you should visit a doctor, but if you don't, nothing is gonna happen to you. See, by analyzing the listening, we can find out a lot more about grammar and vocabulary. So it's essential that you have motivation if you want to join the course, as it is very demanding. Demanding means difficult, something that demands a lot of work, hard work, effort. And again, we have reached this break, between the two sections of the same file. What is important to notice is that this is the end of the parts where listenings have breaks. In section 4, actually part 4 as they call it these days, we don't have a break in the middle of the listening file. As you can see, and as we will go through, there is no break here, but we had breaks in the previous video, part 1 and 2, and here in part 3. What about the costs for the course? The fees for a year, if you're studying part-time, are, then there's the number. The numbers are usually important. Sometimes there are the question, as we can see here, a question is includes information about them. They have gone up this year. Of course, you're paying for all other living costs. All other living costs. Living costs, it means the cost of living in that specific area, and that's very important to know. It's a useful collocation. Is there any kind of bursary or scholarship available to help with the fees? This is the word where I guess the French pronunciation is bourse or bourse, for example, as they say it. The scholarship, being funded, for example, by the university. Yes, there are things available, but you have to meet the criteria. To meet the criteria, there are admission criteria actually, where people need to meet them. People meet the criteria, meet the demand, meet the need, meet the whatever, and this means that they are qualified. They have the qualifications necessary to actually be admitted. Then we continue. to get funding, and funding, as I said, bursary, scholarship. Often, though, the university will actually contact you about funding. Universities have a certain budget available to provide funds, so they will look for the best students and offer them something if they think they will be suitable. You would have to have a firm offer in place to join the course, though, before you'd be considered for any funding. Uh, where can I go to find out more about it? To find out means to get more information about, to get information about something, to find out, to realize, or to understand. They're not quite the same, but the area of meaning is the same. The best place to look for information about funding is on our university website. All the details about whether you're eligible, that's a useful word, what help is on offer, and how to apply will be there. If you can't find the information you're looking for, you can always come and speak to us again, and there will be a number you can ring. You can call, or you can ring, or you can phone. British people usually use the verb ring. And here we have embedded questions, embedded sentences actually. All the information about what help is on offer will be there. Actually, use of clauses, noun clauses actually, or we have different sorts of clauses: adjective, adverb, and noun clauses. That they are very important. I suggest you study grammar a little bit more closely, because grammar can help you understand a whole lot of new ideas. I cannot emphasize this enough. Okay, thanks for that. And is it easy to get hold of you if I need to speak to you further? To get hold of you, to get connected to you again? Yes, I'm here most days, but you can always phone the office first to check. Phone the office first to check. Phone means ring, call. It's best to book an appointment in case I'm not around. To book an appointment. And that's the end of the first part. As you can see, there are so many useful vocabulary. I mean, I have underlined some of them, but I'm sure you can find more if you analyze them, depending on your level, of course. And in part 4, you can see that it's a lecture again, a little bit more difficult, more information, and no breaks as we had in, for example, part 1, 3, 2, and part 3. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, definitely more, let's say, difficult vocabulary, lexical items. Let's go through it and see what it has. In today's lecture, we are going to be talking about the history of Indian railways. That's actually the main idea of the sentence, of the reading, from when they began up until the listening. I'm sorry, up until 1945, when they had all been taken over by the government. The topic is not about an everyday issue. It's something that you can only find in a specific situation, in an academic context. Maybe a book, maybe in a classroom. It's not something that you hear every day, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. Indian Railways is an Indian state-owned enterprise. State-owned, that's an adjective. Owned and operated by the government of India, and that's the use of a passive sentence. That's a passive voice. Through the Ministry of Railways, it is one of the world's largest railway networks. Comprises a useful word, especially and specifically in task 1, academic writing, and that's very useful. I mean, you can say the company comprises of whatever. We will go through this later. We will talk about useful vocabulary for different parts of the writing and speaking. No need to worry here or to get ahead of your ahead of what we're doing. No need to be stressed out about this either. We will talk about this later, but useful word. Learn it now. And over a root of, again, a number. Numbers are important, and as I said before, there may be questions from them. It transports over 25 million passengers daily. That's an adverb, which is over 9 billion on an annual basis, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, and on a weekly basis. You can use this on a something basis for whatever purpose that you have. Indian Railways is the world's 9th largest commercial or utility employer by number of employees, with over 1.4 million employees. Again, we can see that from the numbers here. We have one question. That is a lot. Out of 5 numbers, we have one of them as the subject of a question. The history of rail transport in India began in the mid-19th century. The core of the pressure for building railways in India came from London. Core of the pressure, that's a useful collocation again. In 1848, there was not a single kilometer of railway line in India. A British engineer, Robert Maitland Brereton, was responsible for the expansion of the railways from 1857 onwards. As you can see, all of this paragraph almost is underlined. It means probably this paragraph was subject to a summary question, maybe. And the words used probably are actually the answers. The words in bold: expansion, 6400, and inspiration. So I suggest you read this even between the lines. Look at every single vocabulary item. The information that are actually too detailed in the listening section, they're really important information. And if you do not read the questions ahead, you will it will be a little bit more difficult. I'm not going to say that it's going to be impossible to answer the questions, but it's going to be a lot more difficult if you are not familiar with the topic, at least with the field they're going to talk about. So make sure that you use the breaks between the different parts and read the questions ahead instead of using the time to revise your questions. Don't forget that you will have 10 minutes at the end of the exam to actually transfer your answers from the question paper to the answer sheet. And that's very important. That's an important point to have in mind. Always read ahead. Always. By 1875, about 95 million were invested, actually euros, I guess, pounds, I'm sorry, were invested by British companies in Indian railways. By 1880, the network had a route mileage of about 14,500 kilometers. I'm sorry, that happens a lot. Don't beat yourself up if you have the same problem. Sometimes you cannot see the words clearly. And it happened to me in the speaking exam as well. And I scored pretty well. I got the max. I got 8.5, and that was probably because of my stress. And so don't need to you don't need to worry about this. Mostly radiating inward from the three major port cities of Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta. By 1895, India had started building its own locomotives, and in 1896 sent engineers and locomotives to help build the Uganda railways. So here we can see that there are more details. We have more details here about this whole topic. We can see that it's not an easy topic. It's not something but easy. I don't mean that it's necessarily difficult. There are no new vocabulary here compared to the lecture that we had in part 2. But what is important is that the topic is a little bit complicated, and that makes it more difficult to answer. And you have to answer as you listen. Otherwise, you'll forget ideas if you don't take notes. And This text goes on and on about different details, but what is important is that the vocabulary here, the vocabulary used, they are actually formal words. I mean, the words are used mostly in formal contexts, and it is really to have them in mind. If you don't understand the word, don't worry. I mean, don't fret. The sentences are actually clear. You can find out the meaning of the word by reading the sentence completely. For example, here we have disrepair. See, here you can break the word repair, and this makes it negative, and then we have repair. So there you go with the meaning of the sentence, the question. And even if you don't understand the meaning, you can use the word that are actually hinting. For example, and is used when two words or two sentences are close in meaning or maybe in structure. They have the same role. So you can guess the meaning, and 90%, you have a 90% chance of having the answer correctly. And I think that's a high, the odds are for you, not against you. Even if you don't understand the word, just listen on, keep listening, and you will guess the meaning. And if you read the questions ahead before the file is being played, you will know some pronunciations. I mean, there are some words that you don't understand as you listen, but if you see the way they are written, you're gonna have no problem about this issue. So that's the end of this video. I hope it was useful on how to analyze the questions and the listenings. Of course, the questions may be different. We will have some more practice videos at the end of the course, but here I just wanted to show you how to analyze the listenings, how to find out the new words, how to learn more by listening more. Most of the students only use the listenings to answer the questions and to test what they actually score, but I believe that you can learn a lot more by only listening to these files. So I hope it was good practice for this in this regard, and thank you very much for watching this video. The next video will be about the reading section of the IELTS exam. And thank you very much, and I hope you stay with us. Have a good time.